Hey everyone, so my name's Charles Mendoza, and I'm here to show you my unit plan that I've been working on for this past semester. I think it turned out pretty decent. I'm actually really pleased at how much work I actually have on this website of the numerous weeks and sort of every topic that I've sort of investigated with. Um, so I'm really pleased with it. I'm hoping that through this demonstration of it, you'll be pleased with it and you'll actually, like it, and maybe one day, if you're in history, maybe you'll look at it and use it for your own lesson. That's sort of my goal for this, and at the very least, that I can use it in the future. So, so let's get started. Enough chatting. So my topic it's called "Is It All Relative? Exploring Our Nation's Roots," and the main thing that I wanted to cover on in my unit plan was California Content Standard 10.1, which is students relate the moral and ethical principles in ancient Greek and Roman philosophy, in Judaism, and in Christianity to the development of Western political thought. So this content standard has three substandards, which talks about the Greco-Roman and Judeo-Christian views of life, and then it goes on to talk about Aristotle and Plato's Republic and politics, and sort of how they got their view of tyranny and the rule of law from there. And then finally it expands way outward and way into the future. Well, the future according to the Greek time, modern times for us. But it talks about the influence that the U.S. Constitution and the nation had as an effect on other countries, on their political systems, and on their actual actions, whether it incited rebellions or revolutions or whatnot. So that's the content standard that I'm covering. Yeah, that's the content standard that I'm covering. The next thing I want to talk about is the unit summary. Here I have the unit summary. I have my subject area, which is U.S. history, the grade level, which is 10th, and then I also have a short little summary to get the kids sort of involved in the topic. I have the big ideas, which talks about the ancient roots of our country, sort of the history of our nation, how it goes back far beyond any fight between militia and redcoats, and the religious background, which is what people still argue about today. Whether there's a religious background to this nation, or whether there's any sort of that thinking in the country, and also the American way, which is the ideals that we fought for and still continue to fight for, and whether what form they take on today. Also underneath the title of the big ideas, I have the essential questions, which are questions that I'm hoping will remain in the students' minds throughout the class, throughout the unit, which is, where do we claim these roots are from? Are their influences increasing or decreasing? And what role should the U.S. play in foreign affairs? I also have my student learning objectives, which are all concrete ways of sort of finding out how the students are going to show me what they've been doing throughout the unit. So I've got certain things where it's comparing and contrasting the Greco-Roman and Judeo-Christian ideals, identifying and explaining a set of terms, analyzing why authors felt so strongly about their way of life, and then also finally finishing off in collaborating in groups to make and present a project on how certain nations reflect these ideals that we talked about. Just as sort of heads up, I also have a link to my main site, which is right here. Oops, did you mean to go to my main site? And then also in the header. But let's move on. So for the lessons, I have my first lesson on here, which is the teacher lecture. This would be the first thing I went over in the group, besides the KWL chart, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But I have the slides uploaded onto here. So they're pretty easy to find. It loads up immediately. It's not a Prezi, but since I'm doing it in class and I'm not doing it online, I feel like it will be okay, because they'll have already seen it and they'll just sort of be looking at it to get review. A lot of these slides, they'll pop up and different things will happen, so they're not all just flat, text like that. I have GIFs on here, other things, and videos that I'd show them that I didn't want to incorporate on here by themselves. but these are sort of the slides that they'd be looking at, especially after the class if they're looking for more information that maybe they missed during class. So that's my first teacher lecture that's on there, just sort of so they could get a look at, what Judeo-Christian and Greco-Roman thought was 2,000 years ago. I also have incorporated in here the group discussion. So this is a TPS activity, so think, pair, share. So they'll go from thinking about it themselves to talking about it in a pair, and then sharing with a large group. So I've got the activities built in there, and then I already have the intro to a project right here. So this would be due in a week. It'd be after a lot of lessons already happened. So just giving them enough time to do it. The second lesson is the Weber size, which is focusing on the second substandard, 10.1.2, and it's forms of government from the Republic. And it's talking about Plato and Socrates. So I have the image here just so they could, keep focus on it and sort of understand what it is. So that's good. I just have that image there, but the actual link is here. So they'll be able to click it and download C Open. They'll be able to do that really quick. So see, it already comes up. And you can sort of see what it is. Each section has a source, so that you click on the source and find the answers to the questions. So Plato has a three-part hierarchy. What is he comparing to what? Plato in his time noted differences between the genders. Did this affect his role? Which role he thought men and women received? Why or why not? And sort of these are sort of the simpler answers. Over time, they get more and more complex, and towards the end, it requires them to do some critical thinking over. See, we're having some troubles because it enabled editing, which wouldn't happen on mine. It's just it went from viewer to not. But yeah, so we have the more concrete sort of abstract thinking here, especially in this last one where I linked them to a blog, and this blogger was very vehement about what her ideals were, about what Plato was thinking. And I figured if people disagree with her, they'll respond really well, and if people agree with her, they'll respond really well also, because they'll think she's amazing, and the other people will think she's stupid. So hopefully it'll get people to think either way. And lastly, I have an extra credit activity, which is watching The Matrix and comparing it to Plato's Allegory of the Cave. So I think that's a fun thing for them to do. Just sort of get some extra credit, watch a movie, do a page response. It's not that terrible. But that's my second lesson for them. My third lesson is the Great and Powerful Graphic Organizer. So this is the third substandard and talks about how the U.S. affects other nations. Here I have the image hyperlinked with the graph, so that way they sort of understand it more. And then I also have a link above. But this one, it also has standards sources with them. So it has sources with each topic, and underneath the topic they would write how that idea or ideal affected other countries based on what the article said. So this is just a way for them to sort of see how the U.S. affected the U.S., which is here, how it affected and keeps affecting other nations, represented by this arrow. Sort of get them thinking about other things. As you can see, in this protected view, it sort of has the rubric, blocked. But here I included the rubric also, just so they could sort of see it right away. They don't really need to worry about it except to see what they need to do to get the 5, the excellent. But this is just a base thing, so I didn't have to put, 1, 5, 10, 20, 25. But this would be a bigger point. This is probably like 25 points. I would just multiply the points that they got. So that's my third lesson. And finally, my assessments are right here. I actually included the assessment timeline that we used to create for this class, just because I thought it looked nicer and it was made for viewing, and I think students would appreciate that. They would sort of like to see how the assessments are set out. So I've got the entry level, the formative, and the summative. The KWL chart, which I talked about, which would be the first activity I'd have them do. It'd actually probably be a pre-activity. I give it to them the night before I started the exercise, or 2 nights before, and they'd fill out what they know and what they want to know about Greco-Roman and Judeo-Christian ideas. I might include some terms on there so they would understand what they're looking for more. But that'd be the first thing. And then I'm talking about vocab quiz, a quick write, flowchart, concept map, and the summative assignments. Underneath here I have a little description of each of the assignments and what it should do. On certain assignments I have links to the descriptions or the actual assignment. And over time, as I actually taught them in class, I would upload more of them and more of the instructions that they needed. Especially after the vocab quiz, I'd upload the answers like a week after they took it, so that way they would have it instead of them just feeling like they failed the test and they had no way of like looking back at it. After the test, they could look at it and say, oh, these are the answers. So they would have that sort of available. For here, the unit resources, I have 10 links, and they go under all 3 of the substandards of ancient Greece and Rome, Judeo-Christian thought, and U.S. influence on foreign affairs. Each of them is given the title and hyperlinked and not just a link, and they're given about a sentence or 2 description of the actual website. I tried to give them the website as clear as I could. On some of them, I knew they were more text heavy, so on some of them I put get your Control F ready, because some of them you just need to look for stuff more. This is actually a much bigger site for a college, so they just need to look through that briefly. Other things are videos that they like to see, prezzies done by different teachers, and others are by organizations. The Judeo-Christian Heritage Foundation sort of discusses their roots that they feel, and then also handouts done by other classes, and just other videos and articles on how democracy is being fought for in other countries. So these are links that I hope they would look at and sort of view. I got my digital unit plan, which is here, the grand scheme of things, the master plan of master plans. This is the behind the scenes part, if they really want to know what they should know, what they should learn, and sort of how I'm going to be testing them throughout it. So I included the Wizard of Oz behind the scenes, the man behind the curtain, because that would be me, because I'm trying to focus on them learning. It's not really so important me behind the curtain. So that's my digital unit plan, and again I included my link to my actual main website, because this is my unit plan website. Overall, I'm really pleased with how it turned out. I think that the work put in was well worth it. I went over a lot of different things. I have a lot of different lessons ready now. I have my assessments ready in case I want to do that. Different resources for them to look at. It's a pretty thorough unit plan. So I hope you liked it. I hope that you got some pleasure out of seeing it. And thank you very much.